Welcome back, and as you can see, we have all the angles covered. We're on board, we're above, and we are ready for our next bit of action. And I will turn to my learned friend here, who I know is getting excited for what should be our first group race. Group 5A, 7, 11, and 11. What have we got here?
Actually, this is Group 6 and 12A. This is our American muscle cars and our kind of newer, not just American muscle cars. There's some Porsches and Jaguars, but these are the big bore production cars, basically. Group 6 from 1972 or older, then Group 12 is 1972 or newer. And so right there we're looking at Scott Hawley's beautiful Jaguar E-Type. I don't know if there is a prettier car out on the racetrack, but maybe right next to him, Gary Moore in that Cougar. And I got to say this, Gary pulled me aside and told me this weekend, that is the only championship-winning Mercury Cougar that he could find from those years. He won last year our Group 6 championship, and that's a vinyl top Cougar right there. Beautiful Grand Sport Corvette right there. Sorry, I just got lost. I got lost in the beauty of this grid. Jim Heck in that beautiful Corvette. He has really spent a long time, and I wish we could get up close to that thing because the body work that he has done is phenomenal. That should be John Cloud right there in that Boss 302. But ladies and gentlemen, we need to promote the SVRA app. If you're liking what you're seeing, please leave us a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us what you would like to see more of. But we're at the beautiful Sebring International Raceway. We're going to give you about... I'm going to switch over to the SVRA app. So make sure you go get at the Apple Store or Google Play the SVRA app to finish the rest of the weekend racing with us. Because, Jonathan, it's going to be some phenomenal races with some great fields out here. It looks like we have some smoke. There must be a fire off in the distance because last year or 2 years ago we were here, there were some fires off in the distance that created this haze. And that doesn't look like fog. That looks a little bit more like smoke as we get great visuals. I got to give it up for my buddy Tony Strollo. She has done such a fantastic job with car shows. She's been working the car shows, started about 5 years ago with maybe 30 here, and now we're at 477 cars as we look down at that beautiful non-painted aluminum Cobra. One of my favorite cars out here. There's another navy blue Cobra out there that's being raced by Jim Farley with what they call a Le Mans hardtop on it. And I asked him about the hardtop yesterday, and he was saying he just likes the look. He doesn't really quite like the look of having a cage, but he loves the look of that kind of aerodynamic hardtop. Let me get my buddy Tony to get a shot of Jim Farley in the number 16 blue 1966 Ford Cobra in our Group 6 AP. He should be in the second row.
And Ben, you told me last year that this is without doubt the most popular field or group of SVRA, just because everybody loves the muscle cars.
Yeah, it's the ground-pounding muscle cars. They slide back and forth. There's way too much power to put traction down, so it's great racing. Everybody knows what a Mustang, Corvette, Camaro, Cougar, you know, everybody kind of grew up with that or knew somebody cool one. And there we are. So, like, there's a GT 350 right there. There's so much history
That's awesome.
in this paddock as we look down at the grid. So if you're wondering what the grid means, this is where we put the cars in the position that they qualified for their first feature race of those beautiful Hoosier tires. Looking down there, he's waving. You can see that sticker in the windshield, a 63 split window Corvette. How do you know it's a 63? Because it's got the split window on the back. Number 94 Chevrolet Corvette. There's some just really, really cool cars in this. So that's Chris Ronson Sr. Chris Ronson Jr. is also out here. Get a load of this number 241 Jägermeister. That's David
nice.
Hinton. That car was finished 2 days ago, and there he is. There's Jim Farley in that Le Mans Cobra. So look at that Jägermeister right there. That's David Hinton. That's the president of another fantastic vintage race organization, HSR, Historic Sports Car Racing. So if you like this kind of racing, if you think this is for me, you have no excuse. There's like 20 fantastic vintage racing organizations. I happen to think that SVRA is the best, but go find a place to race with. There's Jim Farley in his Le Mans style coupe, Cobra Coupe I'd call it, but it's got that Le Mans hardtop. And Jim, he's so enthusiastic about these cars. Great to talk to. He works at Ford Motor Company, and now here he is out there racing a Ford Cobra with us at a track that has a lot of Ford history.
I was about to say, that's good company work there. It's like, yeah, no, I'm just representing the the Ford name this weekend. Well, where are you doing that? Well, I'm going down to Sebring. Oh, good. And they probably think he's doing a corporate deal. Really, he's hooting around the track in a Ford.
He's racing hard. And there's another one, Heritage Motorsports, Porsche, David. So they built some really fantastic sports cars out there. And what a great mix of cars as we're looking down at that Devon of, I think that's John DeGaynor in that number 111. John DeGaynor was our Group 4 winner.
Am I right in saying that is the oldest car we have here? It's a 57.
I think so. There might be a MG that is a little bit older.
When I looked at the original start list, I was like, 1957. That's about one of the oldest cars out here. Yeah. So watch out for the Devlin.
So if you're wondering what a Devon is, basically that's a 327 Corvette engine. That's why he's in Group 6. Beautifully prepared car. That's actually his father's car. But he's a really good driver, really fast. But basically Devon makes those bodies. And you could put them on Jaguar chassis, Corvette chassis, MGs. But they're really cool looking cars.
And if I told an artist this was one of 15 in the world, or one of 15 ever produced in the world, they'd be like, well, why isn't there a security guard there?
Yeah.
It's like, but we're racing it.
Yeah, that's what they were meant to do. That's what we love about vintage racing is, these cars look like show cars up close, and we really do appreciate the time and effort, the preparation that these men and women put into these cars, but really appreciate the show that they put on here at the Sebring Speed Tour. So again, if you're enjoying this show, please go download the SVRA or Trans Am app, and you will get to watch all this racing, because we're going to cut out about halfway through. And if you want to see the end of this race, you got to check it out. And we didn't even get to see pole position is Scott Borchetta in that 1969 Chevrolet Corvette. He was our Group 6 winner last year and Group 10 winner. Then Phil Lasco in that first Ford Mustang from 2013, Jonathan.
Just to clarify, it's not in the middle of the race. We're going to obviously go to the end of the race. Then
love it.
Yes, we wouldn't do that to you. But definitely start doing it now, guys. You can watch this race, but download the app and then you won't miss a thing. And we want you to stay with us all day long, all weekend long, in fact. We're really looking forward to you being with us for the weekend and throughout the season. We've got some iconic tracks, some iconic races to be at, as well as watch on our live stream. So we want you to be part of both of our acts.
Scott Borchetta, the legend from Nashville, my hometown. Now, and I'd like to get a good shot, Tony, if you don't mind, of those flags and banners. We've added so many great new sponsors to SVRA Speed Tour and Trans Am. You can see the Hoosier flags.
You spent most of the week putting those up.
But I've got blisters on my fingers from putting up all the flags and banners around. And it used to only take me about 4 hours. But as we add these great sponsors and marketing partners, it takes me all day.
Well, I'm glad you're happy with your flags. But I want to tell you about the lightning bolt on Scott Borchetta's car that we just saw there, the 68. He started as a karter, like all of us do, but he was a big Unser fan, and he loved Johnny Lightning. He loved the old concept of Johnny Lightning, and that lightning bolt on his car is in, deference to him, and obviously he's had that lightning strike logo on all of his cars ever since, and he sent me a picture of him karting as a little kid with the little Al Unser lightning bolt there, so...
Yeah, it's funny, talking to the men and women in this field. Scott Borchetta and Jim Farley, I think they could go head-to-head as the most enthusiastic people in the paddock. Scott and Jim just love racing. And I asked Scott at Road Atlanta last year, because we added so many new events to our schedule, if he was upset by how many events. He's like, no, I'd like to race every...
Well, he usually does about 2 or 3 races to Scott. And Scott also, incidentally, is one of the big backers and big organizers of the street race in Nashville, Tennessee, coming up later in the year. And as being somebody from Tennessee, I know there's a big buzz about it, right?
Music City Grand Prix tickets are now available. If you want to go to that street race in downtown Nashville, right in front of Titan Stadium, go Titans. And it's going to be a fantastic event with TA2 and IndyCar and SRO. Scott Borchetta and Justin Marks, who are both racing here this weekend in Trans Am and SVRA, are owners of that. But look at this field of cars. Ladies and gentlemen, leave a comment on our Facebook or social media channels of what cars are your favorite in this group and who we need to focus on, and we'll do our best as we look at that beautiful Jaguar E-Type. Now, it's funny because I'm obviously American. I'm about as American as they get, and I love the British cars. You don't seem like an American, and you love the American iron, don't you?
It's funny. It's what you grow up with. It's what your TV is. You probably watched all the, you know, all the Jaguar E-Types going around with all our crime investigation stories, and we watched, you know, Steve McQueen hooning around in a muscle car. So
Good
yeah.
stuff.
It's each to his own. The 66, and we're getting a really good view of all of these wonderful cars.
3 minutes on the grid. Aren't you so excited to get back to racing, Jonathan?
Oh, I know. And also, when you see these overhead shots, isn't it amazing to see how many people are here to enjoy it? It's a beautiful day, mid-70s, low 80s over the weekend. We're not expecting any rain, but you never know. Corvette, Stingray getting ready to go out. These are so well prepared too. That's what I love about these cars. They're immaculate.
We've got somebody watching from Beat Gubler from Switzerland. Thank you for joining us. Good stuff. Anderson, Indiana. We had somebody whistling in our ears. That was pretty cool.
I don't know what that was.
So thanks everybody for watching. Chris Zappa. Tell us where you're watching from, ladies and gentlemen, and make sure you go to the app and download the SVRA app as we look at that beautiful number 82 car. There's some great cars. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Jonathan. What's your favorite that you've seen on the grid so far?
I'm going to make you laugh now because I think that E-Type is superb.
So we got 2 votes for the E-Type so far.
Little bit of a breeze here, but it's actually cooling things down as we get ready to go out for the first of our group race for SVRA, and it is Group 6 and 12A. These are the mighty muscle cars of yesteryear. Some of them newer than others.
Just got word from Roger McLaughlin that he's watching from the Arctic, from Houston, Texas, which is the Arctic right now.
It is the Arctic.
Yeah. Wheeling, West Virginia. Ed Evans. Thomas Young is in Wilmington, North Carolina. Thank you guys so much for watching this with us. I can't even say Irondequoit, New York from Dave Price. So Dave, you're going to have to spell that phonetically for us. I'm not smart enough to be able to know what that says. But thank you guys for joining us. Now, who are you rooting for? Which one of these drivers, which one of these cars is your favorite? Tell us all about it.
Dave Hinton's got a beautifully prepared Porsche 911. I'm looking out for him. Obviously, Scott Borchetta leads the way in that beautiful car that he's prepared just behind the pace car.
I tell you what, if you're a fan of the Jaguars, you need to follow David Hinton on social media because he finds these barn finds of these E-types and 120s, and he fixes them up to perfection. It's really fun to watch.
This is another big field. Really impressive.
There is that Cobra right there of Jim Farley. Look at that thing. He's swerving. He heard me say his name, so he's like, I'm going to show off a little bit here.
I have to say, I do like Scott Holly's Jaguar XKE as well. That's my other one, but that's 2 British cars. Robert Bowden in the Devon, Ryan Special.
That's a beautiful car too. And then you should, if you were in the paddock, which, you know, you can walk around the paddocks, he's got a beautiful Ferrari in there with us. And the car that he drives every night to the hotel is a 1960s Jaguar Mark II in perfect condition, but that's his daily driver at the track.
Ha, perfect. Well, we're about to go racing for 2021. It seems a long time ago that we were here in 2020, pre-COVID. Yes, I'm going to say it. Pre-COVID, like, last year.
It does really seem like a long time ago because it was right at the beginning of everything. We were kind of ignorant to it at that point. And then a week later, the world pretty much fell apart. And we did everything we could. I got to give Tony Perella and John Claggett credit because we had some great races in 2020 despite what was happening. And now here we are, everybody's social distancing and wearing their masks, but we're back to racing in 2021.
Yep, and as we look high above the Sebring circuit, we get ready for our Group 6 and Group 12A racing. Scott Borchetta leads the pack behind the safety car. Phil Lasco behind him in the Ford Mustang. Then the Ford Mustang Coupe of Jeff Lindstrom in the 68. Dave Hinton, who I mentioned, in that Porsche 911 in the all blue. Scott Holley in the Jaguar XKE. Gary Moore. I want to hear more about that Mercury Cougar. Gary Moore, certainly one of the favorites in that 1968 Mercury Cougar. Can't miss it. There it is. Can't miss it.
I'm going to challenge our camera operators to try to zoom in on his rear license plate. I think our audience will get a kick out of what's on his rear license plate if we can get a quick shot of that.
Man, you give Tony a hard enough time. Don't give everybody else a hard time, man. You're the talk of the town in the bar, I tell you.
That would be very difficult to do, so let's see what kind of skill.
That's what it is. You're a fellow cameraman, so you're just you're doing the challenge, aren't you? Look at that view.
Yeah,
looking off into the distance. Over the orange groves, came through the ball last night with my man Super Tom. And we saw strawberries, we saw, I think, some cherries, but mainly oranges. And you're going right through the heartland, the farming heartland. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, all those orange trees that just look like you could just go pick one up and eat it.
Well, you know,
unbelievable.
Some of them are so, because they kind of vary them in their growth times. But some of them, as we went by, were literally dropping oranges to the ground.
Yeah.
Down the almond straight then, under safety, and here comes the safety car to pull out of the way. Nice. That will leave Scott Borchetta to lead this group. The much more modern Ford Mustang from 2013. Look at that, 69 versus 2013. I'll bet you Scott's got the better of him, though, before the end of the straight. We're about to find out as we go racing for Group 6 and Group 12A as they come into Sunset Bend. And in a moment, they'll accelerate away and past our commentary position. Ben Sissel alongside me, Jonathan Green, as we get ready for our SVRA coverage. And the green flag waves, and away they go. Scott Borchetta got a good run down the inside and will lead this race. He now comes across to close the door. And a good start from the Mercury Cougar 2 of Gary Moore. He's up there.
It doesn't get much better than this. Look at this field of cars coming through as they come up to turn 3, a very difficult turn 3. We've had a lot of people misjudge that as Scott Borchetta takes the lead over Phil Lasco. I can't tell who that is. Looks like Scott Holley is in 4th.
Yeah, I think my man on the Cougar, the Mercury Cougar, Gary Moore,
powered up through there. Good job,
and
Gary Moore. Look at that beautiful Cougar, followed by Jeff Lindstrom in that white Mustang.
So everybody down to the hairpin for the first time, and a really good start from the 63 of Scott Holley.
Yeah, but watch out for Damon DeSantis right there in that kind of robin's egg blue Porsche, because now they're in the twisty bits, and it's going to work out to the Jaguar and the Porsche's favor here.
At the end of the Fangio
Lipstrom
straight,
looks
turn
inside
10.
Gary Moore.
Yeah, you can start to see the field spreading. And that's the one thing that the drone has really changed our race coverage for, allowing you to see the gaps physically rather than just on the timing. And that's a big point, an important point. They turn through 13 and now open up these big engines again. There's that Cougar I mentioned. Can't see his
Gary Moore,
there.
final top Cougar. But now we've got a couple more turns that work in the favor of the Jaguar and the Porsche. But then that Mustang and the Cougar down this long straight are probably going to try to pass. Watch for Gary Moore to try to make a diving pass into 17 to get cars that are a little bit more nimble.
So here they come down the Almond Straight then for the first time. Scott Borchetta in that white and red Corvette from 69, excuse me, leading the much more modern Ford Mustang from 2013. And then comes that lovely little car.
Look at Scott Holley lock up his brakes just a little bit, coming in.
Well, the same again for the 66 as well, under braking Wallow Berchinger.
Yeah. Wallow, man, you can really see his hands working in there. He's got his hands full coming around turn 17, which is really bumpy.
Very wide entry there for that Porsche that you mentioned, the all light blue Porsche. And here comes the 66, as I mentioned, coming through into turn 1 now.
Well, let's showing that light blue car is David Hinton, which would make sense. David's a really good driver. I'm not sure who's in his Jägermeister car. I called that wrong earlier, but that is, right now the score is telling us that's David Hinton in that 0-0. As we look at Scott Borchetta here, you can really see the gap that he's pulling just a little bit. He probably has a little bit more horsepower than Lasco, but then Lasco has the brakes with that more modern machinery in that 2013 Ford Mustang.
Yeah, and you see the hairpin there. It's not as tight as it may look on the map, but you can see how quickly they slow down. Ooh, a bit of sideways action there in the 66, but he gathers it all together, Wallow. But from this angle, it looks a lot tighter, but when you see it from above, it just opens up a bit at the exit. That's why they just bounce over the dirt there, down towards the Fangio straight again, up to turn 10. And then when we look on the infield again.
Well, according to my scoring, David, well, he's driving 2 cars at the same time.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. Good job. More drone shots right there, the camping. There's that beautiful Jägermeister. 2 cars that have just been finished. James Heck in that 64 Corvette. And then there's that Jägermeister Porsche that really shows up really well. And now these Porsches have the advantage the next 3 corners over that Corvette. And James Heck keep them behind us as we look at John DeGainer and John Cloud coming up through Bishop's Bend. I love these drone shots. You really get a good feel for what all's happening here at the Sebring International Raceway for the Sebring Speed Tour. Do you have a favorite corner of this track, Jonathan?
Well, I was just saying, this is the trickiest part, I think, by the airfield, where they come into this long straight, and it's very high speed before they hit the Ullman Straight, which of course is just flat out before you hit Sunset Bend, which they're coming into now. But yeah, I would have said the trickiest part of this circuit is alongside the airfield there, the current airfield, and then they go back onto this Ullman Straight part of the old airfield, and then down into Sunset. But that to me certainly, as we look at Damon DeSantis in the Porsche 911, the yellow and black, as they cross the line again. The gap, Scott Borchetta now has built just under a second of a gap to Phil Lasco, so it's still a very good race indeed. Scott Holley now third, Jeff Lindstrom in 4th place, Gary Moore drops to 5th, David Hinton in the 0-0 is in 6th place. Wallow Burshitting, and we saw him in the 66 earlier, getting a little bit squirrely, but James Heck behind him in 8th. Ron Maiden in 9th position, and Damon DeSantis, the man I mentioned a moment ago, is in 10th at the moment, just ahead of John Cloud. Now, is Mrs. Cloud out there?
Debbie is racing with us in Group 10 in a modern TA2 car, but John Cloud is going to be racing with us in Group 6 in that Grabber Blue Boss 302 with Cobra Automotive. He's racing in Group 10 against his wife in a TA2 car, and then he's racing TA2.
I was about to say, how many of these drivers, I mean, we've got, you know, over, what, 300 or 400 cars out. How many of these drivers do swapsies?
I'd say probably 10 to 15% race SVRA and Trans Am, and I'd say probably 10 or 15% race more than one car over the weekend.
So then, 10 minutes to go. Scott Borchetta's got a healthy lead. He's got it less than a second, though, so he's not out the woods by any means, but he's doing a really good job. I said from the start of this race he needed to get a good run on the much more modern Mustang that he's up against. And like you said, where the new Mustang from 2013 has the advantages under braking, of course.
I got a good story about Jonathan DeGainer right there in that Devon that we just saw. That is his dad's car. John usually races another Group 4 Devon with us, and his dad fell under some bad health last year, so he's racing that in honor of his dad. His dad is fine now, so we really appreciate that. Nice job. But Jonathan's a great racer. Like I said, he's our Group 4 champion from a few years ago.
High above the Sebring. I tell you what, getting an RV and heading out into the infield, where that RV is in the middle of your shot right now, that's a perfect spot to be. I've stood there before, and it's nice to banked up there, so you can see them coming through the complex at 3, 4, and then under the bridge at 5, and then down to this hairpin. And of course, the hotel is right by there, the sort of on-site hotel. So a lot of the drivers will try to stay there, but it's got a premium in terms of everybody wants to stay there, so you've got to book early if you want to stay at the actual circuit itself.
There's Hugh Booker right there coming around 17. And I'm honored to say that one of my favorite Group 6 drivers, Todd Treford, is watching us. He drives an unbelievable Porsche 911. Wish he was here, but if you go to our Facebook, you can look at some footage of him We're going to be loading up here from a few years ago, one of the best races we've had. As we look at Tursilla right there, can Jim Farley from Ford Motor Company pass a Ford Mustang? Is he allowed to do that, ladies and gentlemen? He's got two Mustangs in front of him. I'm not sure that the company will allow him to do it, but of course they will, because he's a racer. And Ford is all about motorsports and racing. Happy to have them here. This is our Group 6 and Group 12. Again, we've got about 9 minutes left in this race. Please go and download the SVRA app or the Trans Am app to get some great racing all weekend long at the Sebring Speed Tour. Record ticket sales, almost doubling our car show attendance. Thank you, everybody involved.
Yeah, car show, 477.
There it is, Jim Farley. Look at that car.
That's
I
beautiful.
love
Look at
the
him work the
lines
wheel,
of that.
too.
You can see him really getting the wheel. It says Dan Gurney for president. Smoking a little bit. I don't know if that looks like it might be some fuel cell venting. I'm not sure if that was smoke or not. But here we go. These two race together. The white Mustang and the red Mustang are part of Griffin Motorsports. Billy Griffin was our GT champion last year in Trans Am. He's brought these two along that are running in SVRA. And I don't think there's any team orders with Griffin Motorsports, so let's see if they can get around each other.
Great looking car. Okay, I changed my pick. I want that. That's the car I want. James Dolan.
Yeah, James Dolan. And that
GT350.
GT350, beautiful car. I think that's actually his son's car.
Now, Peter, come on, this was built in '66.
Yeah.
Now, surely shouldn't I have dibs on that?
You should. You know, you should go tell him, and maybe he'll wrap it up in a bow and say, happy birthday, Jonathan.
There you go.
Maybe if you convince the camera guys to just stay on him all race.
So we're watching our action from the first of our SVRA group races here for the first round from Sebring. Ben Sissel and Jonathan Green bringing you the action from SVRA. And of course, coming up later, we have qualifying for Trans Am. And we've got two great races. Quite a few changes this year. And great to see champions like Ken Thwaites taking on the TA class this year. Heard from him earlier, and he's learning. He's like a sponge at the moment. But the man who won the first ever XGT Championship will be taking part in TA. And there's several more stories we'll bring you up to date with all that action later in the day. But it's Borchetta, Lasco, Holly, Moore, and Lindstrom. That's your top five in the Group 6 and 12A battle. And here's that lovely painted Porsche, the light blue. Pretty good suspension given how bumpy the track is. And there's my car. I say that my car. That's the one I've got my eyes on now.
Stephen Coleman right there in his Group 6 TA. What TA means is Trans Am. That means that the car was built to Trans Am specifications back in the day. We all know that one of the heydays, I feel like there's three heydays of Trans Am. We're living in one right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then there was the kind of Dorsey, Schrader, Tommy Kendall era. And then there was the era of the 1966 to 1972 of the Pony Car Wars. And that car was built to those specifications right there. We've got Scott Borchetta, a current TA2 driver, in the lead in his EP Corvette, battling against Phil Lasco, who's raced in the TA2 series years ago with us, and he switched to SVRA. So there's a lot of back and forth in this. And Todd Treford, if you're watching, you'd be right up there mixing up front with him. We miss you out here. Hope you can come to some events this year. And who's in that Corvette right there? I can't see that.
John Miller.
That car really swung out there wide on the hairpin. Number 11 John Miller Corvette.
You know, I often get asked about, Trans Am, and we got 5 categories, and they're like, why do you have production cars in your Trans Am series? That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you know what? If you know the history, it does, because it was started as a Trans-American Sedan Championship, and a lot of the cars you're looking at right now were some of those forebears to what Trans Am all began. And of course, when you see the Porsches and you see the Jaguars out there, the reason Trans Am took off was it was to beat the European cars, which were making such inroads into the American scene of racing. The more nimble, the smaller Porsches, and they said, forget that, let's build our own and put some muscle car in it, put some muscle to it.
Well, that's a beautiful Porsche right there, piloted right now by scoring by David Hinton. as we look, here it is. Jim Farley has passed Hugh Booker right there from Griffin in that white Mustang. We do have a lot of Fords in the field right now.
That's a beautiful car too, that car number 5 of Stephen Shoddy in the Shelby Cobra, the all-silver Shelby Cobra that just went through shop.
It's not even silver, it's aluminum.
Yeah.
No paint on that car, I love it.
66 coming through shot. We've been talking about him throughout this race. And Wallow Berchinger in the Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport.
That's Fred Beasley right there in his Group 12, 5th in 12 MP.
Pretty little Porsche.
22nd overall. Yeah, I love the lines of the Porsches. And I love the fact that since the 356, even to today, the lines are basically the same.
I was about to say, that's the one thing that you can tell. People talk about the evolution of cars and how they change. Well, the Porsche 911 effectively has literally been the same basic shape forever. And in terms of performance, it hasn't dropped a notch.
Look at that. I love the looks of that car. That looks like a proper British sports car. Robert Bowden right there. He's also driving a Devon with a 327 engine. That's why he's in Group 6. Does look to have skinnier tires than DeGainer. But man, what a beautiful car. As we did get the last lap, RC in race control just gave the last lap as Bowden gives Scott Borchetta the look around those S's, the twisty bits as they come under the new bridge at Sebring.
Well, while we've been taking a look at the whole field, Scott Borchetta has been pushing hard. He's taken a 5.7 second lead over Phil Lasco in the number 98 Corvette.
Now watch this, because there's Jeff Lindstrom with Griffin Motorsports. There's 4 of those cars out here with us this weekend, but 1 in Trans Am. I think Gary Moore has used up his tires a little bit, and Lindstrom's trying to get in there. And then there's Jeff Hawley just in front, really trying to make it through with that beautiful Jaguar E-Type. But man, this is some great racing here in this mixed class. Now that Cougar is a Group 6 car. Lindstrom is in the group. There is our Group 6B production current leader, Scott Borchetta in the 98. Last year he was here. He shared driving duties with Bobby Labonte in that car in our Enduro. He's out here racing it. And actually his teammate in his NASCAR team, he bought a NASCAR team in the Xfinity Series, is racing, I believe today, Jade Buford at Daytona. So let's all root for Jade Buford with the Big Machine Vodka, Scott Borchetta's team in the Xfinity Series in the Daytona road course.
Yeah, Big Machine, of course, a big sponsor now, both in the Nashville Grand Prix and also in NASCAR at Indianapolis. And several, you'll see the name in several NASCAR entries as well. So they've been a big follower of motorsports. But Scott Borchetta is going to take another Group 6 win. How many championships has he won in Group 6?
This will he's won 2 championships, I believe, in Group 6. He just started road racing just 3-4 years ago. I've never seen somebody get so good so fast. Congratulations, Scott Borchetta, Dylan, and the whole Super 98 Customs team.
Scott Borchetta then wins our first race of SVRA for 2021. And he comes across the line ahead of Phil Lasco in the Ford Mustang from 2013, the all-red entry, picking up some dirt and debris at the end there. And Scott Hawley it is in the tiny number.
He's going to come around here pretty soon.
63.
Let's see how wide he gets.
Yeah. We're just waiting for him as he will come around Sunset Bend.
Oh, we got a replay here.
Yeah, the door was flying open.
Actually, that's Scott's air brakes. He was a little bit too hot into there, so he put out his flaps.
He put out his flaps. Well, he was ready. He was ready for his interview with you, so he was just getting the door latch ready. He wanted to leap out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Borchetta, a legend in Nashville. He's got so many great music artists on his label, Big Machine Records, Big Machine Vodka. Now he's got a new Big Machine Spiked. But as we've seen, one of the hardest workers in our paddock to get good at road racing. Congratulations, Scott Borchetta.
He's also providing all the hand sanitizer we use, and they have their own hand sanitizer process. Yeah. So that concludes our first race, Group 6 and Group 12A, and that also wraps up our live stream. We want you to for now go down and subscribe to our apps and download them and subscribe and join us for the rest of the day's coverage. But that puts in the books our first race of the day. Download the app and join us in a moment. Scott Borchetta wins the first race of 2021 with Phil Lasco in second place and Scott Holley in third.